Okay. Whoop. There we go. So now we have uncertainty. Now we have a finite number of sig figs. So let's say, for example, I gave you the number 4.3 times 10 to the 6 atoms, which if we expand it is 4300000 atoms. Does it seem likely that if I've got a quantity of atoms, let's say I have a piece of copper, right? Maybe I have a penny. Oh, do you guys even know what pennies are anymore? Okay. Pennies are made of copper. Let's say it contains 4,300,000 atoms. Do you think that number is exact? Do you think we might not be out by a little bit? We're probably out by a little bit. So what we have to do is we have to go by whatever digits we are given. And in this case, how many sig figs does this number have? How many sig figs in this number here? Tell your partner. 2 sig figs. Okay, 2 sig figs. So those are counting. Counting's pretty obvious. If it's a small-ish number, you know, less than 1,000-ish, okay, you can probably count it. If it is a large number, it is probably approximated. Now, things which are defined. 60 seconds equals 1 minute. The 60, are we wondering if there's 60 seconds in a minute, or are there exactly 60 seconds in a minute? There's exactly. So how many sig figs in 60? Infinite sig figs, because it is an exact number. So there's 60 seconds in 1 minute. Is that 1 minute approximately 1 minute or exactly 1 minute?
Exactly.
That's exactly. So how many sig figs are in that number 1? Infinite sig figs. In fact, we can go through all of these examples because they are things which have been defined. Somebody said, oh, how many hours are in a day? There are 24. We have defined 24 hours as being 1 day. So we can say 24 is exact. And therefore it has, and if you want to start using that fancy little symbol, you can say it has infinite sig figs. All of your metric conversion factors, this right here is a metric conversion factor. The reason it's called a conversion factor because it lets you know how many centimeters are in a meter, and that would allow you to convert from centimeters to meters. So if you knew that you had 800 centimeters, how many meters would you have? 8. If you had 80 centimeters, how many meters would you have? 0.8. It allows you to convert between them. All metric conversion factors are exact. They're all like 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 or something like that. I'm going to draw your attention to one of these because I've been recently, in the last 5 years or so, having people get this incorrect because they don't know it. How many cents are in a dollar? Tell your partner. How many cents? How many, okay, think about this. How many years in a century? 100. Anybody in here taking French? What's French for 100? Cent. Okay, so how many cents are in a dollar? You need to know this, okay? You must know this. I actually watched some people writing the numeracy test this year and getting stuck because they did not know that there were 100 cents in a dollar. And I was like, oh dear, you guys don't have enough real money anymore, right? Like even when my son was a kid, there wasn't, little kids didn't go around paying with things with a card or whatever. Like, so when he got his allowance, we would count out the quarters. Do you know why they're called quarters? Because it's 1/4 of a dollar. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think, it's very convenient to have money that we don't have physical things. However, in terms of learning as a little kid, like what these meanings are, it's actually really, it takes away something because little kids learn much better by having physical things. And if you never see them, you'll just never know.
Why is a dime 10 cents?
Why is a dime 10 cents? I do not know. I do know why a nickel is a nickel. It's because it used to be made of nickel. Okay. Now, we have 4 quarts is equal to 1 gallon. This is an example of an imperial measurement. That's used in the United States. And all imperial conversion factors are exact. You are not responsible for knowing any of the imperial measurements. You just need to know that if you're told 4 quarts equals 1 gallon, that those numbers are both exact. Okay? And if they're exact, how many sig figs? How many? Infinite. What kind of unit do we have with this 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter? Is that metric or imperial?
Metric.
That is metric. So are those exact or inexact? Exact. 3 feet equals 1 yard. Metric or imperial?
Imperial.
Imperial. And they are both imperial, therefore they are exact numbers. I'll label things as imperial for you, okay? Because I don't expect you to know them. Now, inexact numbers. We've already done some of these. We've made measurements, and we'll be making some more measurements this week. Okay, so if we have a measured number, or if it is derived from other measurements, then we have an inexact number. Inexact means it contains uncertainty. it has finite sig figs. You can count them. So if we look over here, 1 mile, is that imperial or metric? That's imperial. Basically, if it's not if it's not a liter, meter, mole, or Kelvin, kilogram or second, then it is not metric. How about our kilometers? Is that imperial or metric? Metric. When we mix the different types of units, the imperial with the metric, whichever one has a 1, that 1 is exact. Okay, the 1 is exact. But the 1.6093 is inexact. When mixing measurement systems, the 1 will be exact because we're saying, okay, I got 1 mile. The other number, whatever it is inexact. So you will count the sig figs. So if the 1 is exact, it has infinite sig figs. If the other number is inexact, we count the sig figs. And that becomes much more clear if we look at an example. So if we have this 1 mile, how many sig figs in 1 mile? It's that 1, so it has how many sig figs? Infinite. But now we have the other number is in the other system, and it says 1.6093. That would be how many sig figs there? We need to count them now. How many? 5. 5 sig figs. Take a look at our next one. 1 pound equals 453.59 grams. Is this one measuring system or 2 measuring systems? Do we have all metric or all imperial, or is it mixed? It is mixed. A pound is imperial and grams is metric. How many sig figs in 453.59 grams? 5 sig figs. And how many sig figs in 1 pound? Infinite sig figs. Thank you. And now we're going to reverse it. Now we have a metric over here, metric. And then we have imperial. How many sig figs in 1 kilogram? Infinite. How many sig figs in 2.2046 pounds? 5 sig figs. Okay, now we have a funny one, okay? Do you remember we talked about a mole? Liters, meters, moles, and Kelvin. And what does a mole measure? A mole measures amount of matter. And we're really counting the number of particles. Do you remember how we talked about a dozen? What does a dozen mean? A dozen means how many? 12. Well, a mole means 6.02 times 10 to the 23. And if you look at that number, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that's a big number. Do you think that that number is exact or approximate? If I say I have 1 mole of particles, will it contain exactly 602 hexillion particles? No, it won't. So this is approximated. And therefore, how many sig figs in 6.02 times 10 to the 23? 3 sig figs. How many sig figs in 1 mole? Infinite sig figs. Then we just have a bunch more examples of mixed metric and things. So I'm not going to go through all of them. It's just more of the same. This just talks about the fact that if you go with the English Imperial USA system, they're all exact within the system. We already talked about that. Now, per 45 miles per hour. 45. This is number 4 on the next page, page 101. That's the speed. If you say your car is driving at 45 miles per hour, are you 100% sure about that 45, or is there some approximation in there? Your car is driving at 45 miles per hour.
Approximation.
It's an approximation. How did you know that it was driving at 45 miles per hour? What did you look at? You looked at your speedometer. Is the speedometer, are you making a measurement? Yes. Okay. So you get this from the speedometer. I've forgotten E, but that's okay. And that is a measurement. And if it is a measurement, does it have finite or infinite sig figs? Finite. So 45 has 2 sig figs. But how about that 1 hour? Do you think we're approximating that 1 hour? Thank you so much. Leo and Kian. You know when it is convenient. You can go now. Do you think that we're like, oh, maybe it's 45 miles per 2 hours? No. And if you're not uncertain about that one, that means that that is also an exact number. So when we say per hour or per minute or per liter, that per one, whatever it is, that one, whatever it is always going to be exact. Okay, so this is exact. And it has infinite sig figs. percent means out of 100. So you could say, oh, 25.9% means 25.9 out of 100. How many sig figs in 25.9? Three sig figs. How many sig figs in 100?
Infinite.
Infinite sig figs. Lots of constants are not exact. So a mole is an example of that. That's 6.02 times 10 to the 23. Avogadro's number, which is that 6.02 times 10 to the 23. If you were taking 11 enriched with me, instead of regular 11, we would actually use 6.022 times 10 to the 23, which shows you that you could go to more decimal places. And if you go look it up on Wikipedia, you'll actually have like a huge string of digits before you hit the end of the significant figures. Oh, look, here it is. That is the exact number, 6.022140867 times 10 to the 23 particles with an uncertainty of 0.000000074 times 10 to the 23. So we're just going to be like, okay, 6.02 has 3 sig figs and we are done and we're not going to worry about the rest of that nonsense. Okay, the volume of 1 mole of a gas at 0 degrees Celsius and 1 atmosphere is usually given as 22.4 liters per mole. Do you think that that 22.4 liters is exact or inexact? Do you think that's something they know for sure, or do you think that's something that they probably measured? They probably measured, and therefore it is inexact, and therefore we have 3 sig figs. Okay, you guys are going to take a few minutes and work through the exercises on page 102 to 103. Answers are at the end of the worksheet. They're not in the answer key. Well, it depends. Let's see. Look, if I see you have 2.4 liters of blood, is that something where you're like, I know exactly 2.4 liters, or is this something you have to measure? You have to measure it, so it's not exact. Not necessarily, but you do. But 8 pounds of cat food, not exact, right? So it doesn't have a decimal place on it. Yes. Yes. Okay, so you've got some problems. Is there any way to get these 7 to 12 ounces, or did someone not measure it? With 11, it is. Right. Yeah. Good luck. There we go. give, so you get 2,000 outlets, you know, like, let's say, you just count them. Oh, yeah, okay, that's exact. Okay. Yeah. That's okay. So this one, all taxes, so that's a measurement. So someone had to measure that. If you have a measurement with the loose, that model. Things can be exact and be alpha. 2 pence. But yes, this bottle looks to me like it contains 4 ounces of water. I have to measure that, so that's an approximation, right? Make a little bit of a guess. If I have lots of markings on it, I can make a good guess. Okay, but if I don't have very many markings, it's not good. Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to let you guys know that on Wednesday, we're going to have a quiz on the exact inexact and on making measurements, which we're going to go over very briefly today. You've already done it, so we're just going to review it, make sure you know how to do a triple beam balance, and then you're just going to get some practice on it, okay? Ounces, okay, yes. So is that something that you would measure? Why not? Actually, here we go. You can see my water bottle, ounces. So maybe you know, probably where I have maybe 10 ounces. So I measure. Oh no, we don't need to know that. We don't need to know that. I just want to know if it's a measurement or if it's something exact. I want to know if this number is an exact number or if it's approximate. So could I get exactly 12? No. So that means that that is inexact. Ten fingers. That's exact. Yes. Okay. You know what, you can use the whole book, plus what I will do is I will post all your old pieces online.
Thank you.
Yeah. I do have a little extra on counting sick days and scientific notation, but the other ones is harder to come up with. So yeah. All right, my friends, we are on page 79. 79. And we've actually done this before, but it was right near the beginning, so we may have forgotten, okay? When you make a measurement, what are the 3 things you need to include in your measurement? Unit. So we need a unit. What else do we need in a measurement? Pardon me? What it's equal to, yeah. What are you measuring?
Estimated digit.
Are measuring, and you need, yes, the estimated digit. So this is just going to be a little bit of practice. Okay, so you're going to write it as quantity equals blank unit. Now, you're not going to write quantity, you're going to pick the correct quantity. If you are using a balance, what do balances measure? A balance measures mass. If you were using a graduated cylinder, what do graduated cylinders measure? Volume. So you would say the mass of the rock equals blah-de-blah grams, the volume of the water equals blah-de-blah mils. Okay? You are going to circle or highlight your uncertain digit, not because you'll do that for the rest of your life, but just to remind yourselves what it's about. If you are asked to, you will also give the name of the measuring device if you know it. Okay? And then you'll give the number of sig figs in the measurement. So let's take a look at this one here. Now this thing here is a triple beam balance. Now you may be familiar with these. You guys remember using these in the junior grades? Okay, we'll be practicing again with them tomorrow so you can remind yourself. This is actually a quad beam balance. It's got 4 beams, but the one we're looking at here only has 3 beams, which is why it is a triple beam balance. We have beam 1 beam, 2 beams, 3 beams. So this measuring device is called a triple beam balance. And now you're going to make your measurement. Now, in order to make your measurement, you need to record what you are measuring. I would like you to look at the question and tell your partner, what are you measuring? You are measuring. Now, are you measuring only the salt solution? You are also measuring the beaker, because it's pretty impossible to put a salt solution on one of these without having some kind of container. Yes, it would just go all over the place. Would it be okay for me to just say salt solution and beaker equals? Or am I missing something? Sorry. I'm not really very subtle. Okay, so we have salt solution and beaker. What are we measuring about the salt solution in the beaker? Are we measuring the volume? Or are we measuring the temperature? What are we measuring?
Mass.
We're measuring the mass. So you would have to say mass of salt solution in beaker. Okay. And now, I don't know if you guys remember how to read these things, but basically what you do is you take whatever it says on each of the beams and you add them up, okay? So for this one, you're gonna have 3 things that you add up. When you use one of these, you will have 4 to add up. That'll be tomorrow. We'll actually use the real ones. So for today, though, we have a 70, okay? And you don't have to show the addition. You can do this in your head, but if you want to show the addition, you can say, I have 70. I also have, what's this one pointing to? $500. Okay, so we're going to add 500. And now is where we have to make sure we include our uncertain digit. So here, this is counting by ones. So we have 7 point something. What is it? 7.6. Now, are we exactly on 7.6 or are we a little past 7.6? A little past. So I'm going to say that we're probably at 7.6. What do you guys think? 7? Okay, or you could put 8, or you could put 6. And now we're going to add those all up. 7, 6, 7, 7, 5. And you get 577.67. And if you don't know what the unit is, look on the measuring device. It should say. If it doesn't, you can always ask me. Okay, and that would be grams, and we're going to underline our uncertain digit. How many sig figs in that measurement? Yes?
Can I use the washer?
Absolutely. How many sig figs in that measurement? 5. Now, you don't actually have to add them up like that. I usually just read it. I would read it and I would say, I have 577.67, and I just read it off. But if it helps you to add them up, you can, okay? So your homework is to make sure you have done that exact and inexact, page 102, 103. Pages 102 to 103, and pages 80 80 to 88, number 1 to 16. Actually, no, let's do 1 to 17. 17, you'll have to think a little bit, okay? And if you can't get 17, we will go over it next day. that should say 86. 80 to 86. Oh, it's a happy Valentine's Day quiz. Yeah. You're like, wow, what a lovely Valentine's Day present, Miss Pence. Okay.